Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace MADANA-GOPALA Prabhu, and to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees, and to all those who may be watching us live on YouTube or other social media. We are very much grateful and appreciative that we could have His Grace MADANA-GOPALA Prabhu to be with us today, taking part of his busy schedule to be with us today. As we may know, Prabhuji is very busy. He has so many things going on, and particularly about the upcoming wonderful temple that we are all praying and very eager to be able to participate in the opening of the temple. We're praying. So Prabhuji, like I said, we're very much grateful to have your association here today. So we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Sadhya Prabhu, and thank you, dear devotees, for inviting me once again to join your kind spiritual circle as we continue our journey through this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. We'll be covering two texts, 37 and 38. Kim va kritageshvagamatyamarshi bhimo hivadirgatamam vyamunchat yasyangripatam ranabhurnasehe margam gadayascharato vichitram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. Purport. Vidura knew the strength of Bhima. Whenever Bhima was on the battlefield, his steps on the path and the wonderful playing of his club were unbearable for the enemy. Powerful Bhima did not take steps against the sons of Dhritarashtra for a long time. Vidura's inquiry was whether he had yet released his anger, which was like that of a suffering cobra. When a cobra releases its venom after long-cherished anger, its victim cannot survive. I'll move on to the next verse, verse number 38. Kached yashodharathayutapanam gandiva dhanvo paratariraste alakshito yacharakuta gudho maya kirato kirishastutosha. Translation. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva, and who is always famous among the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. Purport: Lord Shiva tested Arjuna's strength by picking a quarrel with him over a hunted boar. He confronted Arjuna in the false dress of a hunter, and Arjuna covered him with arrows until Lord Shiva was satisfied with Arjuna's fighting. He offered Arjuna the Pashupati weapon and blessed him. So here Vidura inquired about the great warrior's well-being. Purport ends here. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my darkened eyes and filled my transcendental knowledge. I offer my obeisances unto his lotus feet. I further offer my obeisances unto all of you, assembled Vaishnavas who's gathered here to hear this message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are all gathered here today to dive once again into the nectar of this Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first chapter, verse number 2, so this is 112, the very second verse in the entire work. It's a very important one. It outlines what the Srimad Bhagavatam is and what it isn't. It says, Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va parairishvara Sadhya hridya varudya tetra kritibi Shushrushubi statshanat. So you see, it says, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. This is an important point. Dharma projita kaitavatra, which means all forms of cheating religiosity are absent completely in this book. So what is this cheating religiosity? This refers to Vyasadeva's initial idea of attracting people with enticements of material gifts to get them to accept some form of higher power, gradually to take to spiritual life. And he would say, you join this Vedic system, it's really nice. You'll get good things. You get a lot of money, you get long life, things like that. This was his initial idea. Seemed like a good idea at the time. But this whole idea backfired. And in the name of religion, the people began to miss the whole point and started becoming materialistic. So before Vyasadeva wrote this Bhagavatam, he had compiled all the other books like the Vedas and the Mahabharata and so many other books. You know, Mahabharata is a very rich, complicated story. And he had written so many things, but he was still feeling down. He was feeling depressed. So he asked his guru, Narad Muni, for help in understanding his misery. He said, my dear Gurudev, I don't know what, I've done so much. I've written so many things. People are reading it, they're liking it, they're following it. Why do I feel this emptiness in my heart, like I've done something wrong? Narada said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy, which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered worthless. Although the great sage, yes, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religiosity, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy materialistic life. And you have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. So Narad Muni, he diagnosed the root cause of the depression of Vyasadeva. So then Narada told Vyasa, describe Lord Krishna's glories exclusively, without any side distractions or gimmicks or enticements. Don't do that. So we get this Srimad Bhagavatam. This Bhagavatam is the mature, ripened fruit of the Vedic tree that Vyasa wrote in his ultimate maturity. Now, Vyasa had written this incredible story called the Mahabharata. This is not a fictional novel. This Mahabharata is called Itihasa. Itihasa means history. Iti means this way. Hasa means happened. It happened in this way. So it's not just a novel, it's history. But he had written this history from his previous approach of materially motivated religiosity. You know what this verse calls? Kaitava dharma, the cheating religion. So when he written it from his previous approach of that materially motivated dharma, now he felt the need of basically retelling the same history, but from the angle of pure devotion to the Supreme Lord. So he corrected his mistake by rewriting in some way the Mahabharata. So, if you want to see the detail of Mahabharata, you can read the Mahabharata, no problem. But if you want to understand what is Mahabharata about, then read the Bhagavatam. And in Bhagavatam, these stories are again retold, you see. So when we read these different sections of the Bhagavatam, these conversations between Vidura and Uddhava, and other conversations like the prayers of Queen Kunti, in the prayers of Queen Kunti, she remembers how all the atrocities of Duryodhana on the Pandavas, how they try to kill Bhima, and how they try to cheat them and match, and how they try to burn them all alive. So she recounts these histories. So these same stories of the Mahabharata, they're seen as flashbacks in the Bhagavatam. In flashback is like if you're watching a movie, they show a scene in the beginning, and then you move forward, and then they show that scene again. It's like a flashback. It repeats the older scene. But this time, this Bhagavatam flashbacks is through the lens of Sri Krishna being in the center, and pure devotion to Krishna being the goal and the highlight, the goal of life, the highlight of the message. So today, when we read these Mahabharata-related adventures of Bhima and of Arjuna and others in the Bhagavatam, we must fully appreciate and understand that in this sacred Srimad Bhagavatam, every single chapter, every single verse, every single word has one and only one aim: to bring us all to the platform of pure devotional service to Krishna. Now, some of the other books by the very same author, by the way, they're not amala. They're not spotless. They're not fully pure. This Srimad Bhagavatam is known as Amala Puran, spotless Puran. This Bhagavatam, it is not meant for us to be able to succeed in our money-making ideas and businesses, or it's not meant to find a rich husband for our daughter. It's not meant for us to get more recognition, so our so-called, for our so-called this high standard of living from our neighbors. They'll see us and they'll feel jealous. No. That is not the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam. This Bhagavatam is meant for us to become like how the Lord himself wants us to become. See, devotees of Krishna engaged in loving devotional service. That's what he wants. We want to be that. And we want to be devotees of the Lord, but sharing with others is good fortune with, as effectively as possible. And also really feeling the bliss and the happiness that comes from devotional service. That's what the Bhagavatam is all about. That's where we need to go. Let's take a look at this chapter we're studying today. This chapter is chapter number 1 of the 3rd canto. So in the beginning of the chapter, right, we see how Vidura is the brother of Dhritarashtra, the king at that time. So we see how Vidura was invited by his brother Dhritarashtra for advice. Vidura said, hey, look, my dear brother, your son Duryodhana is offense personified. Why? Because he's envious and antagonistic to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So you see, right away, even this point, when Vidura is criticizing Duryodhana to his father, to Duryodhana's father Dhritarashtra, even this point is Krishna-centric. It is not that Duryodhana is an ineffective manager, or he doesn't know how to handle the kingdom properly, or doesn't know how to fight properly, or he's weak. No. Duryodhana's disqualification, primary disqualification, is that he is a non-devotee and he actively acts against the Supreme Lord. He's envious and he's antagonistic. And that is his great misfortune, and that is his big disqualification. He's not Krishna conscious. Again, you see this point, it doesn't bubble up so much in the Mahabharata, but in Bhagavatam, it's put in those words from the point of view of Krishna. Now, Duryodhana then gets very angry, and he very offensively throws out Vidura after making this very painful, insulting remarks. I mean, Vidura is a respectable uncle. It's the brother of his father. When Duryodhana said this, Dhritarashtra didn't speak anything, because Duryodhana is such a powerful influence on everybody, and he's quite evil. And Vidura, who was a personification of Dharma, he's in fact Dharmaraj himself. He's Yamaraj himself, taking birth here. He puts down his bow calmly and starts walking away. Starts walking away to do what? To go and visit and see the places where Krishna is worshipped. Again, a Krishna-centric point. It's that same Mahabharata story, but with Krishna consciousness front and center. We don't find this so much in the Mahabharata. It's there. It's kind of, in the background. But in the Bhagavatam, it gets into the details. This Bhagavatam has several verses detailing this point about where Vidura goes. It's not just a passing reference, oh, he went for pilgrimage. No. It says he began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited Supreme Lord decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress. While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. You see, the Bhagavatam doesn't glaze over this point. It zooms into this point that he traveled thinking only of Krishna. You bow down on these temples. It is a Krishna conscious, Krishna focused message everywhere, even as we're going in and out of these amazing stories. See? That's something for us to notice. That's something for us to appreciate. That's why we can read the Bhagavatam from anywhere and we will benefit from it. And the story continues, and Vidura meets Uddhava. And he asks Uddhava how each of the different members of the Yadu family are doing. And he highlights Krishna throughout this discussion as well. You see, for example, in earlier verses, Vidura asks Uddhava, please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Shvapalka, is doing well. Akrura, he is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love for Krishna and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna. So you see, even this question of how is Akrura doing, he didn't just say, how is Akrura doing? No. Even this glorification of Akrura, the very identity of Akrura is centered around Akrura's ecstatic love for Krishna. So we cannot but love and appreciate Krishna more and more and more when we see the story of Mahabharata through the eyes of these pure devotees, through the wordings of Vyasadeva as he's written, the Bhagavatam is centered around Krishna. And the verse prior to today's verse, he asks about the Pandavas. Of course, even today he asks about Bhima, he asks about Arjuna, but prior to this one, he asks about Pandavas in general. What's special about this? The same thing. Yesterday's verse, the previous verse, he says, also let me inquire whether Maharaj Yudhishthira is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhishthira was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna, as if they were his own arms. So what's the point? Krishna is not left out. Krishna is the point. He is the main point. So now coming back to today's verse about Bhima and Arjuna. See, Bhima had been boiling inside with the fire of revenge burning hot. When Draupadi was insulted in the assembly, everybody was very angry. Nobody was more angry than Bhima. Bhima's nature, of course, is he boils over very quickly, and he's also very powerful. He can just smash out all these people. He turns into like a Hulk kind of being, and he just destroys everybody when he gets angry. Now, even though Bhima was so angry, he listened to his brother Yudhishthira, and he kept quiet. He didn't act at that time. Bhima, who is known worldwide for his destructive anger. So here the message we see in the analogy that Vidura gives, it's like the cobra holding on to its poison. He feels like striking, but he holds on, gathers more and more poison. It's very, very intense. And the poison gets more concentrated. But he did not release it too early. He listened to his brother Yudhishthira. His brother said, keep quiet, sit down. This is not the place and time to fight. We cannot do this. It's against the principles. And the other brothers agreed, and they were in consensus with that. So this message is what unity is about. When we're working as a group together and we want to follow the religious principles together, we may not always agree, but advanced devotees will defer to the consensus and follow the proper etiquette in respecting the senior. It's part of being united. Prabhupada gives the story of this bundle of sticks. Everybody knows this story. You know that if you have a bundle of sticks, it's very difficult to break. But if you take out each small stick one by one, you can break them. So if we're united, then we cannot be broken. So that's the proper etiquette, the message that no matter how famous you may be for your anger, when it's time to hold anger, you should hold it. Anger is something that if we allow it to rule our life, then it overrides intelligence and we do unintelligent, foolish things. Some of the qualities, lust, greed, anger, envy, if we allow them to dominate in any way, then we put aside our intelligence. Intelligence is designed so that we do things that are better for us in the long run. But the intelligence gets thrown out the window when all of them or any one of them takes over. If we act on our unbridled lust, causes all kinds of destruction, but it's very powerful. And people lose their intelligence. And one could be the king, could be the governor of a state. We've had so many scandals. Could be even the president of the country, so many scandals. It completely throws out their reputation because they acted on it. They lost their intelligence. Same thing with greed. People get very greedy. You want so much more than what you need, what you really need, but you just want so much. So you do all kinds of unintelligent things. Eventually catches up with you. And same thing with anger, same thing with envy. But Bhima, even though he had so much intense anger, he held it until it's time to go on the battlefield. It's a message for us. These are the things we have to learn as devotees to try to somehow curb it. Now, Arjuna's story that's referenced here today, that has an interesting background too. So, way back, after there's a battle at the Khandava forest, Indra had promised to Arjuna. Indra is Arjuna's father. And he had promised to Arjuna to give him all these celestial weapons as a boon for, showing his prowess, matching him in battle. But he said that Lord Shiva first should be appeased by him. So then Lord Krishna had given advice to Arjuna that you must do some austerity, some tapasya, some penance. So he took the advice and went to the forest, and he left his brothers and he performed his penances. Now Duryodhana, when he heard that Arjuna is going to be doing some penances to gain undefeatable weapons, Duryodhana was, of course, envious. So he sent a demon by the name, his asura called Mukasura, to try to kill Arjuna. Now Mukasura took the form of a wild boar. Wild boar is like a wild pig. And tried to attack Arjuna, ruin his penance, his worship. Now Lord Shiva saw this happening and he appeared there. So Lord Shiva came there in the form of a hunter. Arjuna shot an arrow at the boar and killed it because he was coming to attack him in self-defense. At the same time, Lord Shiva, in the disguise of a kirata, the hunter, fake hunter, so obviously he's not a hunter, disguise of a kirata, that's the same word in today's verse, kirata. He also released an arrow from his bow. And then he said, no, I killed this thing. So there's a bit of a disagreement between the two, and they started arguing whose arrow killed the boar. Now this argument grew out into an arrow fight. So you can imagine Arjuna is in battle with Lord Shiva. They kept fighting until Arjuna's quiver completely finished. He didn't have any arrows left. So then Arjuna pulled out his sword, and hit the head of Lord Shiva with the sword. And the sword shattered into pieces. Nothing happened to Lord Shiva. So then what happened? The two, they started fighting, barehanded, bare knuckles, until Arjuna was just beaten senseless and fell down to earth. He just lost his consciousness. When Arjuna woke up, he was seeing stars. And as he woke up, he was praying to Lord Shiva, my dear Lord Shiva, help me. And he mentally offered a garland to Lord Shiva in his mind. And then when he opened his eyes, he saw the garland was on the Kirata. His mental garland appeared on the Kirata. And he understood this Kirata is actually Lord Shiva. And he was overwhelmed with joy. He fell at the feet of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was pleased with Arjuna. And he said, my dear Arjuna, I am very pleased with you. Nobody can rival you in the strength of arrows. There is no Kshatriya who's equal to you in courage and in patience. You're sinless. Your strength is practically as much as mine. It's very close to what I have. So he says, I am pleased with you and I will grant you this irresistible weapon, this undefeatable weapon called Pashupata Astra. So then Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati also offered, they offered their darshan in the original forms, and they blessed Arjuna with this Pashupat Astra. So these amazing stories, they capture our minds and hearts. We learn these deep values of honor, of justice, of truth from them when we read these Mahabharata stories. This can make us better persons if we listen carefully and look for ways to improve our own behavior, our own attitudes. But above all, the words of the Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, they infuse our consciousness with pure love for Krishna. This is the nectar that our soul has been thirsting for over so many lifetimes. This study of Bhagavatam, this lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, we are not bereft of all the wonderful, of all the deep satisfaction that comes from, seeing these stories, learning about them. They're entertaining. They're eye-opening. They're refreshing. We don't need to watch mundane entertainment when so many mind-blowing things are available in Srimad Bhagavatam. And like we explored today, practically every word is glorifying Krishna from one angle or another. And so we're not bereft of these satisfying, intriguing, entertaining aspects of life. In fact, if we follow Krishna consciousness according to Bhagavatam and as in the modern world as laid out by Srila Prabhupada, we will not be having any shortage or lacking in anything at all. I'm not just talking basic food and water. I'm talking every aspect of life. The refinements of art, of poetry, of music, of dance, of culture, of intrigue, of science, of politics, of sociology and psychology, and all these things that interest different people at different levels. It's all there in the Bhagavatam. There's no shortage of anything. And all of that is done with Krishna in the center. It's like a cloth that's infused with nectar. And that cloth is what this Bhagavatam is made of. And no matter where we touch, that nectar will flow with profusion. And we can drink from it. That's why the third verse of Bhagavatam, it says, Nigam kalpa taror galitam phalam, shuka mukhad amrita drava samyutam, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. That this Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature. And the fruit is such that it's like, it may look like a mango or something, but it's drinkable. You drink it. Pibata. Pibata means you drink. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. So those who are connoisseurs, connoisseurs means really know what is high taste. Those are connoisseurs. They're called Rasika. This is the third verse of the Bhagavatam. It says, Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. It says, O expert and thoughtful men, relish the Bhagavatam, drink it. It is the mature fruit of this, right? Nigamakalpatur, thank you for sharing that. Shuka Mukhad Amrita Drava Samyutam. Shuka refers to Shukadev Goswami, also refers to the parrot, Shuka. When a parrot touches the fruit, it certifies that this is a ripened fruit. And pibata means we're drinking this beautiful rasa, the juice, the juicy. And it gives so much satisfaction. So we talked about the previous verse to that. It says the Bhagavata will not have any traces of cheating religion. See? So what we explored today, we kind of went through the chapter up to this point. And we were looking for hints. Wait a minute, is this really living up to the promise of that second verse? Is it really talking about Krishna as a focus? Is it excluding cheating religion? We saw it. Yes. Every verse points to Krishna. Every story and the sub-story within it highlights Krishna's love for his devotees love for Krishna, Krishna's beauty, his pastime, his name. This is the nectar that our soul has been thirsting for over so many lifetimes. Let us take this moment right now, right here, July 24th, 2024. Let's take this moment to rededicate ourselves to this practice of drinking deep from this well of sweet elixir of Srimad Bhagavatam daily. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nitya means all the time. Nityam can also mean daily. If we can do daily a little bit, then our soul will dance. We will not seek in the outside world the happiness that the soul is seeking. We will not seek in the wrong places. We will not seek nectar in the jars of poison. They have a label of nectar on them, but they're poison. In the material world is full of that. Let's not run after those fake nectar that end up hurting us. No, we will not seek it because we are satisfied when we drink this every day. And let us wholeheartedly chant with love and affection the holy names, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us chant our japa with great relish, with great depth. Let us sing our kirtan with great joy, great affection for Krishna. Let us raise our hands together with our devotee friends. Let us forgive all the minor offenses that people do to us. Let them melt away, let them be washed away by the tears of ecstasy that are streaming from our eyes when we finally realize, my Lord, you're here in your holy name. You've given me this opportunity to sing your holy name, to chant it. My heart is filled with gratitude, and the gratitude overflows in the form of tears, and all those tears cleanse our hearts of all misgivings. Let's look for ways to cry for Krishna. Let us take strongly the association of devotees for whom this practice means something. Let us find those progressive devotees who are serious in their practice. Let us be friends with them. Let us be influenced by them. And then let us then share this with others. We have it today because somebody shared it with us. We cannot pay it back to them, but we can pay it forward by sharing with others. So as we continue through this beautiful Bhagavatam, exploring these wonderful stories, and learning something new every day. Let us remember to appreciate Srila Prabhupada and the entire line of acharyas, and appreciate our own spiritual masters for their presence in our lives, and chant Hare Krishna with great joy and gratitude. So thank you very much once again. We can pause over here, and if anybody has any comments, questions, discussions, we can do that now. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Grace Madan-Gopala Prabhu. Very beautiful, inspiring Krishna Katha. And dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak or ask your question. Prabhuji, when I was just a very little boy, I was very much amazed at my older siblings. I just couldn't understand how they were able to get it and I couldn't get it. That was when I had to put on my sandals. I'll put the left one on my right foot, and I'll put the left one on my right foot, and they will correct me. And when I wear it the way they corrected me, I feel so much ease. And I was wondering, how are they able to get it and I don't get it? So my question I'm about to ask you is like that, because at my point now, I seem to not understand it. So it's bewildering to me. But you may be able to help me. And that is, you were beautifully sharing the pastimes of Bhima, how he was boiling because Draupadi was almost disrobed in an assembly, and he wanted to react, but Yudhishthira silenced him, and he did that. So my question is, do we read anywhere in the scriptures where the Pandavas disobeyed or disregarded the advice of Maharaj Yudhishthira? And if they did not, couldn't that also be the reason why Yudhishthira went into gambling and ended up losing everything, which led to the disrobing of Draupadi? And then finally, do we then follow authorities or we follow truth? If we follow authorities, then whatever the authority says, we follow. Like whatever Yudhishthira said, the Pandavas followed. So were they following because Yudhishthira was their leader, was their head, was their older brother, and they had to follow him, or because he was speaking the truth? These are my worries, misunderstandings, and I hope you can help me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sahadev Prabhu. It's a very deep questions. They are not at all simple. At least it's not as simple as putting your left foot in the right sandal. Those are obvious. Very good question. Why did the Pandavas follow Yudhishthira? Why should I follow my authority? On what basis? Should it only be because they have some authority and that's it? Or should I evaluate their instruction? Should I follow blindly? Or should I filter it again and double check with other things. So the answer is not as straightforward because the circumstances may not be as straightforward. I'll give you an example. When someone is in the battlefield and you have the commander, and every split second counts, the commander is issuing commands. At that time, it is not practical, it may not be possible to filter, evaluate, and reflect on whether that command fulfills all the 25 check boxes of religiosity. You have to act, reflex, because you have full faith and trust that my commander is following the principles correctly. I've chosen the commander based on that. Maybe after the war is over, then you reflect, oh, actually I followed him. Out of 25, we only followed 22. 3 of them we kind of went overboard, but they're okay. I can understand why that happened. So we can evaluate later on after. So in that situation, you're better off just following, because that's the system, the situation calls for it. You could lose the war, and if you're on the right side of the war, dharma could lose the war because you're just overthinking. So there is such a thing as overthinking. At the same time, when the situation allows it, we are not told to follow blindly just because someone has an authority. Then how are we supposed to follow? Who am I to evaluate the truth, the veracity, the quality of thought that went into the order and the command that my authority is giving me? Actually, we are all empowered to ask questions, especially if it doesn't sit right. And we are also told to triple check. When I say triple check, when I say double check, because there are 3 things that we have to evaluate. We have to see it through the eyes of Guru, who is our immediate commander, and then sadhus, which means the other commanders who are, other authorized gurus, who are sadhus, a circle of sadhus. So it's not just the guru by himself or herself, sadhus also, and Shastra. Shastra is the ultimate, basis for truth. So if you can defend your position, your assertion, with all 3 legs of that stool that's standing there, then it can stand properly. So you have to check, is it, first of all, why am I even checking? It sounds like it's wrong to me, just intuitively. He's telling me to go and rob the bank. Weird. Okay, but he's guru, so I shouldn't question. At the same time, let me check with other gurus. And the other guru said, no, that doesn't seem right. Let's look in Shastra. And I don't find it. Okay, then you go back to the guru. So it is fine. And gurus themselves preach this message that check with Guru Sadhu Shastra. There's no guru who says, only listen to me, don't look at Sadhu Shastra, right? That's in general, okay? But again, even that can be reevaluated. Even that example may not always hold true. I'll give you one example. When Srila Prabhupada was first starting out, ISKCON, and his disciples had only been practicing a few years. At most, when Prabhupada left, nobody had been practicing more than 10, 11 years, maximum. The senior most devotee had been doing 10, 11 years in ISKCON. So everyone was pretty young. So in the first few years, when some of his disciples started asking questions from other gurus and they're getting some conflicting information, Prabhupada said, what's wrong with you? Why listen to them? Just focus on what I'm saying. And said, Prabhupada, these are all... No. You got to understand. Trust me, these guys, they may be my god brothers or whatever, but some of them, not all of them, some of them are clearly envious and they're trying to steal away and diminish me. I know that for a fact. So even that situation, it makes perfect sense to take Prabhupada, the guru, directly. But even there, you have to use some discrimination. You can see the behavior of Prabhupada, his purity, and you can completely wholeheartedly follow him, no issues. but still they were checking with others. So even in certain cases, that has to be evaluated with your intelligence and with the deep prayer, you see. Now, whether to do something or not to do something, whether it's right or wrong, there's a verse from the Mahabharata where it says, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatah sapantha, that the truth cannot be ascertained by doing deep study of scriptures. The truth cannot be ascertained by this method, that method. It says, the essence of truth is guhayam, it's secret. Dharmasya tattvam, the essence of dharma. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Then how on earth am I supposed to follow dharma? It says, Mahajano yena gatah sapantha. You follow in the footsteps. You see how the great Mahajans have led their lives, how they have worked through these scenarios. And we have to apply some intelligence to see whether that scenario is similar to what we're seeing today. So some intelligence is there, and we apply the intelligence with the faith. And for us in ISKCON, the main Mahajan is Srila Prabhupada, his example, his teachings, his instructions, his purports, his letters, his lectures, his conversations, they all can be seen holistically. And we can apply our intelligence to see that, yes, it seems very likely this is what Prabhupada would advise us to do. So that's what I can offer. I'm probably making it even more complex than you asked, but this is the nature of the world. But if you can evaluate from these 3 points of view, we will be better situated to make the right choice.
Well, thank you so much. It seems we have Shima Varaha Prabhu, please give me a mute. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. And please permit me to just make one quick comment about that question asked by Sahadev Prabhu. I think I had before that, especially answer to that question, because that question is often asked, why should these people, why should they act submissively in a situation where their independence is concerned? I mean, they became slaves just because they were following their brother. So I think I had another answer to that question, that actually all the Pandavas are one soul in different bodies. I don't know whether that fits, that actually they're all one soul, but in different bodies. And there's a whole lot of kind of a story that illustrates how they came in different bodies. So I just want to chip in that and see whether it actually, because your answer, Prabhu, is perfect. I mean, I mean, I cannot disagree with what you've said. Not following blindly, and the scriptures also did not encourage us to follow blindly. But in this particular case can be very disturbing. So I got that. I had that before, and I just want you to confirm that if it is. I mean, if you also know about this. Hare Krishna. Sorry,
Hare
I'm
Krishna,
driving.
yes. No worries. Thank you. It's a great point. Why the Pandavas did certain things in very complex situation. That's also true, that they're really basically one soul spread over 5 bodies. That's one angle to see. So they work lockstep, and yet they still had distinctive personalities. Sometimes they would still argue, but they would still come up with the same, at least they would follow the consensus of Yudhishthira Maharaj for the most part, you know. That particular episode of Draupadi, that particular episode where Maharaj Yudhishthira lost his good sense and just engaged in gambling so deeply, it's almost like a foolish thing what he did. How are we to understand that Dharmaraj can get stuck in something so bad? Well, this is the point of the story, that even Dharmaraj, the son of Dharmaraj, when you start doing these kind of things, because you justify them, right? He had to do it because the Kshatriya Dharma means you cannot refuse a challenge to fight, and you cannot refuse a challenge to gamble. It's part of the Kshatriya Dharma, the code. Okay, so he had to follow it. But by having forced to follow it and to see the degrading effect it has, it highlights for those of us who are like, not very perfect, stay away from these 4 types of sins. Any one of them can completely destroy you. If Yudhishthir could not be spared, who are we? Don't go to those gambling places. Don't go to any places where the 4 regular principles are being broken, or where we could be enticed. You see, if Yudhishthir could slip down to such a degraded position and destroy so much, who are we? Best is to avoid. So it is to highlight the effect. It's also to highlight the effect of Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga just begin to creep in. It's said that Duryodhan is the embodiment of Kali Yuga. It's said like that. So his embodiment of envy toward the Lord. So all those things are connected, interrelated. And the messages, there's so many messages to learn, that even great people who have a lot of discrimination, they can make huge mistakes. 1 point. Second point, in spite of those huge mistakes that we may make in our lives, if we turn to the Lord will always come and rescue us. You see. And another point, that Draupadi, she was holding on herself, but then when she let go and put her hands up, that's when Krishna came. So to the degree we surrender to the Lord, giving our freedom to him, to that degree the Lord will intervene in our lives. A lot of messages, positive messages, are seen in this particular episode. But because it's so complicated, we may doubt. What is this Bhishma? Bhishma is considered a Mahajan. He's listed among the 12 Mahajans. He does not deserve Mahajan status. He should have stopped the whole nonsense, but he didn't do it. Why did he go for mundane dharma? Why didn't he stand up for the proper thing? It's a tough question. You see, a lot of tough questions from just that one episode. But if we step back and see, Krishna had a message there, that even great souls make mistakes in judgment. But if they stick to dharma, then they'll be saved. And if they turn to the Lord, ultimately, the Lord saves us. Now, what that saving looks like can look different. How can you say he saved them? He kept them in his circle of devotional service. He increased the intensity of remembrance of him, and that's the saving. That's the gift, because that gift cannot be replaced by anything material. So when we see these complex stories, we can try to find the positive spiritual messages from them. Thank you, Prabhu, for your comment.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yeah, Shrimvara Prabhu. In fact, I have also read that story, how the Pandavas are one soul in 5 different bodies. But my dilemma is, I don't know. Of course, I cannot ask Krishna why, but this is saying my big brother, Shrimvara, he corrected me once on this very platform when we were talking about the analogy or the allegory of someone sitting on the back of a horse and pulling the horse using the reins and things like that to describe the nature of the Atma in this body. And prior to the correction, I thought that the soul is the driver of this machine. And I was beautifully corrected that is the intelligence. That is the driver. Now, we sometimes experience backseat drivers. Someone is driving, and the way he's driving is making the passengers on the car saying, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. Now, if I have this intelligence, which is driving this body, which makes me, the soul in this body, but I'm now being driven by this intelligence. So at this point, my life is in the hand of the driver. And I have this crazy, restless intelligence, this crazy driver, taking me wherever he wants to go to. It's almost like DUI, driving under influence. Now, how do I save myself from the hands of this crazy, drunk intelligence driver? And my life is in his hand. And almost everywhere, Krishna is telling us to use your intelligence to do this, do that. But intelligence is already corrupted. How do we save ourselves in such a situation? Prabhuji.
Good question. When we have an analogy, this is an analogy. We have to understand how the analogy works. Okay. It's a very good analogy. It's not an analogy created by ordinary humans. It's an analogy created by Krishna himself. It's a pretty powerful analogy. But we have to understand how the analogy works. Now, Rupa Goswami has written a book on how to understand analogies. It's called Chandra Shakhanyaya. It's all about science of analogies. So if you look at this analogy of the chariot, the senses are the horses, the reins are the mind, and the driver is the intelligence, but the passenger is the soul. Okay. Now you're right. The driver listens to the passenger. The passenger decides, tells where the driver. That's why when Krishna says, use your intelligence, he's saying, as the passenger, tell the driver to go this way or that way. That's what it means, to use something. You have a hammer in your hand. The hammer doesn't have a mind of its own. It's in your hand, you see. So the analogy is to tell us that there are different levels. Before you can reach to the senses, there are two different levels that get to that point, you see. So Krishna also talks about this concept of lust, where lust sits in the senses and the mind and the intelligence. So any one of these three elements that move us forward, move the chariot forward, can be contaminated by lust. Lust is what? Lust is this false idea that I'll be happy by exploiting nature, material nature, selfishly. That's the lust. In summary, lust means selfish exploitation of matter will make me happy. That misconception. So if the senses are saturated or contaminated with that misconception, then the horses will go wild. If the mind has that misconception, then the reins will go wild. They will allow the horses to go everywhere. But the worst part is if the intelligence is contaminated with lust, which Krishna says it sits there, then it's even more destructive, because now the driver can use all kinds of cool things to do bad things, all kinds of smart things to accomplish very bad things. So we as the passenger have to understand these are the different doers, but ultimately it is my desire that drives everything. You see? That's why, who is the actual doer? Arjuna asks in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, actually, the three modes are the actual doer. Or he says, no, I am the ultimate doer, Arjuna, right? Or he says that the soul is the actual doer. In different places, he says different things. So which is the actual doer? Who is doing it? All three of them are doing it. You see, how can all three of them do it? I'll give you the example. This example helped me understand this whole picture, okay? You know how in the carnival, there's a carnival and there's a little game that there's a little plate there, and a kind of thing goes up all the way and it hits the bell, and you have to hit that plate with a big hammer. Have you seen that? You hit a big hammer, and if you're strong and the thing goes all the way top and rings the bell, you get a prize, right? So the little kid who's 4 years old, 3 years old, a little 4-year-old kid, he wants to play. He can't even move the hammer, but he says, Daddy, I want to play it. I want to win the teddy bear. So Daddy says, okay, let's go. And Daddy gives the money, and the boy holds the hammer, but the father also holds the hammer. You see, then they hit the plate together, and the thing goes to the top and rings the bell, and it gets a little teddy bear, right? Who is the doer here? Is it the father? Is it the son? Is it the hammer? It's all three. The hammer, without the hammer, you couldn't have done it. Hammer is the three modes of material nature, right? Without the father's strength, he could not have even moved the hammer. But without the child's desire, that whole thing would not have happened. So we are the child. Krishna is the father, and the material nature is the hammer. The desire is coming from us. The energy and ultimate strength comes from Krishna, and the facility is the creation of Krishna, which is the three modes. So all three are doers. So then when Krishna tells Arjuna, you use your intelligence, means you direct the driver where to go. Ultimately, it boils down to us. His whole creation was created for us by Krishna. He doesn't want to create this. He does it reluctantly. So we can pretend that he doesn't exist. That's all. He doesn't like it, but he does it. So that's once you understand the whole picture, then things become a lot clearer that I should be just careful what I desire, where I direct my desires, and keep my intelligence pure, keep my mind pure, and also my senses pure. Pure means free from selfish, materialistic things, and focus on Krishna. Then we'll be happy from day one. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this answer to my question, especially the analogy, the hammer, the little boy, and the father gives a very, very clear picture of what's going on. Thank you. Dear devotees, does anyone else have something to share or ask? Govinda Prabhu, please, you may. Yes, go ahead, Govinda Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Govinda.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Hare Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, yes, we can hear you.
My respectful obeisances to you.
Yeah,
and thank you very, very much for your beautiful, beautiful presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, this is nectar, and we've enjoyed it very, very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, Prabhuji, I have one question, and I don't know if you have time to explain a little bit about it for me. The question is concerning the Pandavas being one soul and expanded into 5, or one soul in 5 different bodies. May I know what happened? Who is the original among the 5, and why did he become 5?
Yes, it's a good question. So we have to understand some of these points that they're poetic. You know, when 2 people or 3 people are on the same page all the time, you can say we are one. You see, we are one because our aim is the same. We do the same things, and we're so much in love with the goal, and we love each other. So that is the point. So when sometimes we say that there's one soul in 5 different bodies, it is not a literal explanation. It is a rasika, or it is a poetic to show that they're so close, might as well be one person, like they're breathing in the same, frequency. Because in Bhagavad Gita, we learned the soul is indivisible. So you can't divide and, bring together. It doesn't work like that. So it's not like one soul is divided, literally speaking. Now, there are cases where it is possible where one can expand one's own body and can have multiple bodies. Like, you can have 2 more arms, for example. Or you can even have another whole body that you are controlling. That's also explained. And so in this world, in the material world, the soul can have up to 7 such expansions. That's the limit what you can do. And this is explained in the story of Kardama Muni, where Kardama Muni expanded, I think 7 or 9 or something like that. We expanded into many Kardama Munis, so to accomplish certain things. So that's possible. But it's almost like an extension of your own body. But in the case of Pandavas, they are distinct eternal souls, which have a distinct, unique, each of them a distinct, unique identity and relationship with Krishna. But because they're so united, they're seen as one. Just like the bundle of sticks looks like one thing, you know. That's all. That's the way we can understand these analogies, you know. Right. So.
All right. Thank you. So it's not like one soul, but that soul divided into 5 and assume 5 different bodies with 5 different characteristics. But because they are all in love with Krishna, and so therefore they're all thinking the same, and that's why we call them, you know, one soul in 5 bodies. Is that
yes, that exactly. That's why, that's why sometimes we hear the phrase Guru is one. Guru is not 2. We have so many gurus. We have so many Shiksha gurus and Diksha gurus. So what does that mean, Guru is one? So then Prabhupada explains it, that their message is one. They don't speak anything different from each other. You see. So what does that mean to be one? It's achintya bheda abhed. It is inconceivable that they're one, but they're also different. You see. And because we see the unity in diversity, you can see they're one, but they're also different. You know? We can take one more, Bhakta-san, but I do have to get going in about 3 minutes, if that's okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your time. Bhakta Hassan, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace, kindly accept my humble respectful obeisances. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Shri Prabhupada, and all glory to you, and all glory to the Assembly devotees. Your Grace, please, I'm still kind of confused. If you can explain more further concerning the soul, because the soul, it is said that the soul can never be separated. So, for instance, if somebody expand himself to another body, that particular extra body, what exactly is in there? What is in there? What should you call that? Is it a soul, or is it different element which is functioning in that expansion?
Yes. So how that works, let me explain. It's like, you know, you can do one thing with one hand, and you can do something else with the other hand, but you're still the same soul. You have 2 hands. Have you seen some expert people playing the piano where the left hand is playing a whole different thing, right hand is playing a whole different thing, but the soul is the same? The controlling, it almost looks like 2 different people playing. Similarly, the Lord gives the ability where the other body is animated, but there's only one soul. The soul stays in the main body. The other body is like a 3rd hand or a 4th hand, and it's connected wirelessly. Like you have the wireless control of the remote control. You see, something like that. But it's the connection is through the subtle body. So the subtle body is shared and distributed across multiple bodies. So the Lord allows that mystic ability, but that's only available to those who have done a lot of tapasya and things like that, you know. So, but it's there. That's how it's explained.
Okay. So it's more like the expansion is like artificial or something.
Yeah, it's an expansion. You expand further. Imagine you have another 3rd hand or 4th hand. You know, you can do something with your legs, you can do something with your hands, different things. When you're dancing, you can do different things. Similarly, this is a remote control of another body, but that's your body. And then that body is only temporary. It's only there for a very short time, and then it comes back again, merges back into you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I understand. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all once again. I do have to leave. Hare Krishna. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So,
enjoy your company.
We're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute themselves, and we all happily chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Madana-Gopala Prabhu, for giving us his busy time in love and devotion, sharing Krishna Katha with us from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Kalpa Tarubhyascha,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
All glories to His Grace, Madan-Gopal Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Ki jai. All glories to Samud Vaishnava devotees ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Jai.